Capitol attack, pledged not to support lawmakers who disputed the 2020 election results. Joining us now, senior executive editor for Bloomberg Opinion and MSNBC political analyst Tim O'Brien. Tim, good Saturday to you. Some of those companies who made January 6 related pledges, including Goldman Sachs, there's General Motors, Bank of America, and AT&T, as we were showing, now each are giving $1 million to the inauguration. When you look at this, what does this indicate about how the business world expects this relationship with the incoming administration to be like?
Well, I think it clearly indicates that they think it's pay to play. And I'm sure they think it's in the best interest of their companies and their need for access to the Trump administration to do what Donald Trump has always asked people around him to do, which is to pay for access and to be transactional and to figure out the easiest way to get to him is through money. So I don't think it's complex. I think it's also, unfortunately, very disappointing because January 6th was a threat to democracy. I don't think Donald Trump's threat to democracy has abated simply because he won the election. In fact, I think it's grown more threatening. And I think all U.S. institutions have to figure out what stance they need to have towards this administration that protects their interests but also protects the public interest. And I think forking over large amounts of money to a inauguration committee or to the campaign or to any number of businesses that Donald Trump controls is exactly as what it appears to be, is people paying for access.
I expect, Tim, that you'll be breaking out your crowd counting app for January later on. Wanting to see how many people do show up for this, again, very heavily donated at the moment inauguration. I want to move now to what I was mentioning earlier, the Trump-branded merchandise, which besides MAGA hats also includes such items as $299 Trump crypto president sneakers and $119 victory cologne. I mean, how does Trump stand to make from his branded merchandise, even as he is taking the White House, and then all the intertwining complexities of that?
Well, Richard, I think the merch is the low-hanging fruit for him. This is going to be relatively small change for him, given some of the opportunities he's already teed up, and I'll get to that in a second, because it's not to say that it's inconsequential that he's peddling his names on all sorts of merchandise, his name on all sorts of merchandise. He has done that historically, obviously. He built his business around that, but he wasn't president then. And, one of the tenets of good government, and I think this is a nonpartisan, non-ideological observation, is that the White House shouldn't be for sale, and its inhabitants shouldn't be able to market themselves for financial gain while they're also making public policy. But the merch, again, it's very low-hanging fruit. Remember, Donald Trump already has interests in crypto, in a crypto and digital asset exchange. He has said his administration is going to be very crypto-friendly. That alone is going to fatten his wallet. He has interest in a media company, Trump Media, which controls Truth Social. That also stands to gain from his role in the White House. He's got real estate interests. He's got ventures overseas. His sons have already said that they're not going to keep his company in an arm's length relationship from the White House, which they put up sort of a fig leaf during his first administration to guard against conflicts of interest. But right now, I think they've basically signaled that they are going to feel that they are free to monetize the presidency as swiftly and without any guardrail.
Peeling the onion back just a little bit here, Tim, the New York Times recently reporting that, quote, unlike some of Trump's earlier efforts, the identities of his current merchandise business partners are shielded through the creation of limited liability companies, which are structured to allow those partners to remain anonymous. And Times reporters who tried to track down the Wyoming address of a couple of these LLCs that I was just mentioning in their article found rural strip malls or buildings populated by unrelated businesses. Uncommon? Common? What's going on here?
Very common in Donald Trump's business history. He has operated using literally hundreds of LLCs historically. So he's simply bringing that to the White House. And again, you're entitled as a private citizen to transact through LLCs as long as it's legitimate transactions and in accordance with the law. There's a lot of freedom there. But the framers never anticipated someone would enter the White House both with his wallet wide open and with a keen thirst to monetize the presidency. And so when you don't have transparency on who the investors are or who the beneficiaries are in these LLCs, it raises an obvious financial conflict of interest that I think voters and policymakers should all be concerned about.
Tim, I want to get to this really quickly. Trump recently suggesting, as we've been talking about this week, that his administration could take full control of the Panama Canal because he was accusing Panama of ripping off the U.S. with its fees that it charges to use it. We took a look at that earlier this week. The fees are actually a little bit lower than the Suez Canal. Do you suspect, and this is a connection potentially or not, that Trump is doing this because of his business interests